move my cushion just a little bit. From Fairyland this morning. So hola, Zoolanders. Check it out, man. I've got little moss roses blooming here. My mint is doing spectacularly lovely. The palace is absolutely fabulous today. The foxglove are getting ready to bloom any day now. It's absolutely fantastic. So, today I'm going to continue reading from Wells of Abundance by E.V. Ingraham. I am excited about this one because we're going to read the fifth plane of supply. Supply is an inheritance, and this is especially impactful for me. So I hope that it'll be impactful for someone else and help you get through rough situations, decide what you can take and what you can walk away from and do without. So, I'm going to chill here for just a moment, not many. Maybe finish this and have a couple sips of my coffee. Fresh out of the shower this afternoon. I was up super late, for me anyway. About 4:30 maybe. By the time I got off the computer and shut everything down and got myself to a restful state, yeah, probably didn't sleep until 4:30 or 5. But that's one of the great joys and blessings of unemployment, and having almost nothing actually is quite freeing. And I have to bring myself back to that kind of gratitude super often. But it's true. Ain't got no stuff to worry about. Ain't got no problems. It's gonna be great. So let's continue now into the fifth plane of supply, and we'll start with the verses. But the meek shall inherit the earth, and shall delight themselves in the abundance of peace. Psalms 37:11. The Lord knoweth the days of the upright, and their inheritance shall be forever. Psalms 37:18. For the Lord God is a sun and shield. The Lord will give grace and glory. No good thing will he withhold from them that walk uprightly. Psalms 84:11. The righteous shall flourish like the palm tree. He shall grow like a cedar in Lebanon. Psalms 92:12. They shall be abundantly satisfied with the fatness of thy house, and thou shalt make them drink of the river of thy pleasures. Psalms 36:8. Wisdom and knowledge is granted unto thee, and I will give thee riches and wealth and honor, such as none of the kings have had that have been before thee. Neither shall there any after thee have the like. Chronicles 1:12. Yea, the Almighty shall be thy defense, and thou shalt have plenty of silver. Job 22:25. Daryl Calhoun, hey, it's been a while. I'm so glad to see you today. Hi, I hope you're great. Then shalt thou lay up gold as dust, and the gold of Ophir as the stones of the brooks. Job 22:24. Fifth plane of supply. Supply as an inheritance. It is self-evident fact that the more frequently you associate with anything, the more you feel a part of it, and the more its operations vitally affect you. Spiritual practice is no exception to the rule. The faithful application of spiritual law brings a consciousness that you are not a product of, nor a part of, a material world. Everything seems to move out and become a part of the larger system. As the poet had said, nothing in this world is single, all things by law divine, with one another being mingled. The world did not produce itself, and it did not produce the things that live upon it. The things that appear upon the earth are but further expressions of the same system that produced it in the first place. Should the universal system break down, then every part of the system would break down. It can then be seen that even a single blade of grass is supported by the universal system. This entire system is, of course, God, who is creator, ruler, and sustainer of the system. You, a part of this creation, are also a part of the same infinite system. You are a more complete expression, the very image and likeness of God, and a little lower than the angels. You are, therefore, the highest in line of succession, the highest in material form. You are necessarily sustained from the same source. The law of nature causes a plant to grow, provides all of its requirements, and sustains the plant as it is growing. There is no support for any element aside from the principle that produced it. But here is the point to be clearly fixed in the mind if this step in supply is to be fully realized. The world, the plant, the animal, and you had nothing whatever to do with creation. At a certain point in your growth, you awakened to the fact that you were a conscious being. That being the case, the universe, God, is solely responsible for your being here. The universe, therefore, owes you a living, is glad to give it to you, and furthermore, it is your natural heritage. Please note this statement again. The universe owes you a living, not the world. As the child of God, you naturally inherit all the supply and support that is necessary for you to continue to express that which has progressed to this point. In the Lord's Prayer, Christ taught us to pray, "Give us this day our daily bread." He was calling your attention to your inheritance. He was calling your attention to your inheritance. He did not tell you to ask for what belonged to another. He told you distinctly to ask for something that is already yours. Truly, the universe owes you a living. Not only that, but it is willing and eager to give it to you. It is the Father's pleasure to give you the kingdom. Nothing but the universal system can sustain you, for the Creator is both the life and substance of the created. Man cannot live by bread alone. Quite truly, he cannot, for bread does not feed his mind, spirit, or life. You should dwell much upon the fact that you are more dependent upon invisible forces than forms for your support. Think often how much more your nature depends upon air than water, and so on. What keeps your mind going? What feeds your hopes and ideals? What keeps your life going on and on? It is best for your own progress that you trace these answers through for yourself. Someday, if you will be faithful to this practice, the whole matter of supply will clear up. Then go on with the idea that air is something you inherit in the very process of living. It is yours by right, and no man can rob you of it, nor can they charge you for it. From here on to the highest forces of the universe, you inherit all things. They are yours by divine right. All that the Father has is yours now, not something you come into possession of at a later date. It is all yours, an inheritance now. To as many as receive my Spirit, to them is given power to become the sons of God. The prodigal son understood this matter of inheritance, and he said to his father, "Give me that portion of thy goods that falleth to me." He understood that certain things were naturally his. He asked for his own and received it. Up to this point, he was entirely within his right. His mistake was in separating himself and his inheritance from the Father, spending it in riotous living. Up to the point of his separation, he was obeying Christ's instruction, "Give me this day my daily bread." This is not only a request for your own supply, your inherited support from the system, but it is claiming it for today. Now is the only time you can accept supply. Claiming, accepting, receiving, and building this universal supply into your character is a most vital and satisfying procedure. By it, you get back into harmony with basic facts, and the sense of wealth and security become living realities to you. Here, outer supply seems eagerly seeking you. The magnet here works stronger than ever. You realize as a practical reality the statement made earlier in these lessons that outer supply rides on the current of your inner supply. This practice leads to an actual inrush of your supply. Abundance begins to crowd in upon your mind and feeling. You know the negative experience of this stage of realization when trouble or lack crowd in. This stage of your progress is just the reverse aspect of the same law. The sword of the Spirit has two edges and cuts both ways. Before, nothing in the whole kingdom of life seemed to be yours. Now, everything in heaven and earth seems to be yours. My supply, as my inheritance, has arrived. It is mine. It is my birthright. Knowing your own is a sort of coming of age spiritually. The absolute knowing that a thing is yours is an irresistible force. That which I know is mine must come to me by the very law of my being. Did you ever see in a store window some garment that exactly suited you? In that moment of supreme oneness with the garment, did you brand it by saying, "That is mine"? Then, did you later see it in the same store, back in the department from whence it came, and still later find it on the bargain counter? Did you wonder why no one ever bought it? Your stamp of ownership was indelibly impressed upon it, and no one could buy it. It could not suit anyone else, for your consciousness was so completely incarnate in it. But to merely claim things does not bring them to you, even though you may take them out of circulation for others. If you knew your divine supply as firmly, as feelingly, as spontaneously, you would have enough to procure anything in the outer that you needed. Therefore, assume the attitude of an inheritor, a feeling that you inherit the abundance of your Father. Keep it up until the radiant sense of mine comes over you. Here you will enter into a new and wonderful world where you belong. You will be back in your Father's house where there is enough and to spare. You will still work, but your work will not be labor for reward. It will be for the joyous expression of such inward wealth that you must work to express the great joy and abundance of life. You work in order that others may be enriched by your efforts. I think this is one of my favorite chapters, is coming to terms with that. Meditation. Being a product of the creative law of the universe, I inherit all the life, intelligence, and substance of infinite space, God. God has created me as a vehicle through which to express himself. As he has given me my being, so does he give me of himself, that his pleasure may be complete and continuous. I constantly inherit all things, for it is the will and pleasure of God to give himself to and through me. All that the Father hath is mine. Give me this day my daily bread. Give me now the fullness of supply that is rightfully mine. Let my rightful inheritance flow from heaven and earth as it is ordained from the beginning. The power, the life, the intelligence, and the substance of God are forever mine. They are mine by the law of birth. They are mine now, and I receive them with gratitude. I claim my inheritance of wisdom also, that I may use my vast inheritance to the honor and glory of my Father. I accept and receive my inheritance of all good, that the glory of God may be made manifest through me. Whew, it's getting warm. 6. The sixth plane of supply. And he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, that bringeth forth his fruit in his season. His leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. Psalms 1:3. But thou shalt remember the Lord thy God, for it is he that giveth thee power to get wealth, that he may establish his covenant which he sware unto thy fathers, as it is this day. Deuteronomy 8:18. For the seed shall be prosperous, the vine shall give her fruit, and the ground shall give her increase, and the heavens shall give their dew. And I will cause the remnant of this people to possess all these things. Zechariah 8:12. In the morning sow thy seed, and in the evening withhold not thy hand, for thou knowest not whether shall prosper, either this or that, or whether they both shall be alike good. Ecclesiastes 11:6. Every man also to whom God hath given riches and wealth, and hath given him power to eat thereof, and to take his portion, and to rejoice in his labor, this is the gift of God. Ecclesiastes 5:19. Sixth plane of supply. Supply and the creative process. How fascinating this whole matter of supply becomes as its various phases unfold. Like everything else, it unfolds only to those who study it. We discover only what we search for. This explains why so many of us have not found and manifested abundance. We really have not searched for it. The discovery of supply is not only interesting because the supply itself is desirable, but the progressive unfoldment of the idea is fascinating in itself. It is like finding the solution to a puzzle or discovering the secret of some very complex situation. Once this point of fascination has been reached, the rest of our progress will be easier. The sixth plane of supply brings a new and more fascinating discovery. As we search out the mystery of supply, we find that something vastly important is involved in the process. It is something that sets aside all the struggle and uncertainty in our pursuit of the needful things in life. Wherever there is inheritance, there must be a source from which it originated. Furthermore, there must have been a willingness and an activity that the inheritance pass from the active. Furthermore, there must have been a willingness and an activity that the inheritance pass from the source to the inheritance and the act of giving. There is force and actual movement which urges the gift or inheritance upon him. This, after all, is the real principle of nature. Seemingly, vegetation absorbs its supply from the sun, air, and earth, but in reality, its supply is forced upon it. It is the activity of its inheritance that supplies it with life, action, and form, and is that which causes growth. Its supply is, therefore, an active process already providing needful elements before it starts to grow and continuing during its entire process of development. If this were not true, it is very evident that there would be no vegetation in the first place. Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. Was not a more beautiful phrase, but contains practical knowledge for those who would stop to consider. Here is an illustration to prove that your supply is always in operation, moving upon you from every direction, offering you the wealth of heaven and earth. But it seems we are not in accord with the natural process of life. It is the Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. The blessing of the Lord maketh rich and addeth no sorrow thereto. It is God who giveth power to get wealth. How such statements take on new meaning when seen in this light. How heartening even to consider that every moment of your life your good is seeking you out, that all things needful for your progress are moving toward you. But to awaken to the realization of this fact is to arise to the state of absolute certainty in the entire matter of supply. Certainly all creation proceeded from an active process, else there could not have been any creation. As certainly that process must continue, else creation would disappear. If the active process contained that which produced form, it also contains all the necessary elements to sustain that form. God must be more than the life of his creation. He is the actual substance as well. Supply is, therefore, an active movement of all elements necessary to sustain and maintain your entire being. All the abundance of heaven and earth is always moving toward you. The supply itself has really produced you, and you belong to it and in it, in a more vital sense than it belongs to you. It is not so much that you inherit it, though this is true, but in a truer sense, it has projected you. You are its expression. The law has forced itself out through you and is continuously trying to force itself out more and more through you. This is where the whole idea of man's divine sonship comes in, and on this sonship rests the whole law of inheritance. It was Emerson who wrote, "Hast not thy share? Lo, it rushes thee to meet. All that nature made thine own, floating in air or pent in stone, shall rive the hills and swim the sea, and like thy shadow follow thee." Perhaps you can better understand the terrific urge for your supply to express in you if you think for a moment how all living forces move toward expression. Notice all the eagerness which impels you to tell everything you know, or to express what you feel, or produce what you idealize. The desire for full expression seizes your whole nature whenever creative ideals fill you. The singer longs to sing, the dancer to dance, the artist to paint. The whole process of life in heaven and earth is a dynamic and irrepressible movement toward manifestation. It is upon the tide of such a force that all of your supply moves toward you. The faithful practice of the preceding steps should, ere now, have brought you into perfect accord with this process. If so, your supply should spring forth speedily and abundantly. But again, remember that outer supply moves on the tide of the inner. Do not be drawn away from the realization of this self-acting, eager force that moves to supply you with every good and perfect gift. Too much concern about results will insulate you from its full and free expression through you. To live in absolute assurance that the results are inevitable, to keep the circuit through you flowing at full force. Supply follow-up or continued action of the process that created you. That being true, your full supply is guaranteed as long as the creative process is operative. You need not fear that this supply will pass in your lifetime, for the things of God are the same yesterday, today, and forever. Here is another vital fact that appears in considering supply at this point. Since it moves eternally, all that you have not used is cumulative. It is stored up for you, just as water has piled up behind a dam. That is the cause of the pressure you feel. You think the pressure is the weight of oppression, of lack, but it is not. It is the pressure of your universal bank account, the unused resource of your nature that is crowding itself upon you. Did you ever notice how prolific the fruit crop is when late frosts or other causes have kept the trees from bearing 1 or more years? Did you ever observe how much better one's health often is after a sick spell? Life moves on, and unless we keep up with it, we feel its pressure. Someday you must express the abundance of spirit. It is the order of life. All that you have lacked is stored up back of your nature. Okay. It is a priceless, universal bank account waiting for you to adjust yourself to its tendency, that it may flood you with blessings until you shall be unable to contain them all. The great secret in swift results, either in healing or supply, is in the knowledge that omnipotence moves upon you to heal, to bless, and to prosper you. Study this law. Watch for its action wherever you go. Consider it until at last you grasp it. Then the abundance of heaven and earth is yours. Neither come I of myself, but he, the Father, hath sent me. John 8:42. The same force that sent him sustained him and those about him. It also healed them every one. The same power that sent you will sustain and heal you if you receive. Meditation. The same power that produced heaven and earth must necessarily sustain them. The power that created must be the life and substance of the created. That power moved to create and must now move to sustain. These facts must stand as the eternal law of being. Therefore, my supply of all good is at hand. The wealth of heaven and earth move toward me on the current of infinite creative power. The tide of God's creative power, the Spirit of God that moved to create, still moves. It moves to sustain me and all creation. It moves with pleasure to express and to fulfill itself in me, here and now. With eagerness, it floods my whole being, pressing itself out into complete expression through my mind and flesh and into my affairs. I inherit the wealth of the universe, and it eagerly and actively seeks me out, pouring its great wealth upon me. The riches of the kingdom flood my whole being. I am richly and abundantly supplied within and without from the eager storehouse of the universe, a supply that is more eager to manifest wealth through me than I am eager to receive it. I open my whole being wide, and the eager abundance of God may enrich me and all of my world. Hey, let's see who we got. We got Mojo Shop and Daryl Calhoun. Hi. Happy, what is today, Saturday? Tis Saturday, I believe. And we will just excuse the lighting. It is what it is on this kind of a day. And it's nice and diffused. It's like shady, but it's already pretty tough. I'll bet that I'm gonna have redness, probably. How weird. Okay, so the silver is mine and the gold is mine, saith the Lord of hosts. I don't even know how to say that one. And the Lord was with Joseph, and he was a prosperous man, and he was in the house of his master the Egyptian. Genesis 39:2. I will make a man more precious than fine gold, even a man than the golden wedge of Ophir. I don't know what that abbreviation is either. For the earth shall be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord, as the waters cover the sea. Seventh plane of supply in the absolute. Peace, King James. What's up? Happy Saturday. It may be a bit difficult for those unaccustomed to considering abstract things to grasp supply in its absolute sense. This is a realization that one is more likely to grow into than to grasp offhand. But to those who can grasp it, it is the direct approach to both supply and health. It all centers around the fact that cause and effect are one, that they are always synonymous and therefore simultaneous. If it is true of God, it must be true in manifestation, is its logic. But the mind schooled to appearances does not readily grasp this. Such a mind, trying to apply this logic, creates a conflict in one's nature, and confusion and vague uncertainty in results. One who does not readily grasp the idea of this plane had better approach it by the easy stages of the preceding lessons. But those who can at least sense its truth will find swift progress in following this highest fact. It can hardly be called law, for it is not a movement by which results are realized, but self-evident and self-expressed facts. The process by which we arrive at this state might be likened to a very wealthy man falling asleep and dreaming he was very poor. In the dream, he may have all the experiences and feelings of poverty, but it would only be a dream. Finally, he awakens, and his wealth is there. The only attainment involved is to wake up. A man once explained his escape from danger in the same way. He dreamed a lion sprang upon him. He was so frightened he awoke, and of course he awakened to safety because there was no lion there in the first place. All sense of lack and disease has always been classed as illusion by those who have attained illumination, those who have awakened. They tell us that we are held in earth sleep, but that when we awake we shall see him as he is. It is the exact difference between ignorance and knowledge. An acceptable and understandable basis of reason to which the absolute approach may be compared is in the simple fact that 1 + 1 = 2. Now, if I have no figures to express this fact, the fact still remains, does it not? If I say it equals nothing, or if I say it equals 3, you still hold to the fact that 1 + 1 = 2. do you not? Well, in this you are using the same type of reasoning that is employed in the absolute approach to supply. If God is, then supply is. If God is manifest, then your supply is manifest. But you have to wake up to the fact. In Revelations 2:9 we read, I know thy works and tribulations and poverty, but thou art rich. This is a proclamation of fact, regardless of appearances to the contrary. In like manner we must school ourselves to facts until we awaken to see the truth thereof. When we see and know the truth, we are free of the illusion. The individual attains to the seventh plane of supply in the absolute, only when he has expanded his consciousness to comprehend the universality of all things visible and invisible, and has entirely lost the sense of separateness. There is no longer thee and me, God and man, there is only God. The highest consciousness of supply comes when you have so completely lost yourself in the infinite that you no longer think or speak as being in any sense apart from God. As Longfellow wrote, we no longer entertain our own imperfect thoughts and vain opinions, but God alone speaks in us, and we wait in singleness of heart that we may know his will, and in the silence of our spirits that we may do his will and do that only. A sponge immersed in water becomes completely saturated with it. It returns to the state of complete oneness with the environment in which it grew. So man, returning to his source, abiding in it, reaches the point of complete saturation. He is one in and with his source. I and my Father are one. Here you are in the Father's house, and all thine is mine, and all mine is thine. To comprehend this basic and unalterable fact is to be absolutely one in and with all supply. To help awaken yourself to this state, try to feel yourself in the midst of infinite abundance, much as you might feel yourself in the warmth of the sun while taking a sunbath. After a while, you feel the warmth all through you. At the point of complete oneness, you say, I am warm. The same situation will prevail when, as, and if you make your complete oneness with supply as it is. Train yourself to feel saturated with the wealth of the universe. Revel in the sense of infinite wealth that flows toward you, surrounds you, fills you. Let nothing, even poverty itself, dim your realization that all the fullness of life, of wealth, of exhaustless abundance is always, everywhere, abundantly manifest. Supply is the self-existent reality of omnipresence. Abundance is here. It is manifest. All that the Father hath is mine now. I simply return to my Father's house, the state of absolute being where God dwells. I am that I am, and beside me there is no other. Therefore God is all, is always completely and perfectly and richly manifest. Meditation. Behold, our God is one. He is the Son of all things visible and invisible. He is the wisdom, the power, and substance of all things. He is therefore the wealth of heaven and of earth. The earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof. The earth and they that dwell therein, the cattle on 1,000 hills, the silver and gold are his. I live and move and have my being in God. Therefore, I move and live and have my being in exhaustless wealth. God is my Father. It is he that hath made me. I am one with him and his wealth. The very essence and manifestation of infinite wealth is in me and through me and around me. Wealth fills me and flows through me. Wealth fills my home, my environment, my affairs, my business, and my world. I live perpetually in wealth, for wealth is everywhere. All that I can use is always at my command, for it is in me and I am in it. Wealth is infinite and abundantly manifest, for God is wealth. I am created by wealth, fashioned of wealth, live in wealth, and am of the very substance of wealth. Do not let money or the lack of money dull your vision of reality. Do not allow appearances to lull you back into the earth sleep. Awake. Abundance is here now. Live in it until you see its rich manifestation all around you. see how good this is, timely and on point. Let's say another hello. I got Squirrel Sniper. Hello, nice of you to join us for a bit. We got just a few more pages to finish this book. I've got Maddie B. Fishin. Hello, I don't think I've seen you before in chat, so welcome. I'm glad to have you today. I hope you're enjoying Wells of Abundance by E.V. Ingraham. This is a good book. You just finished working on your own garden. Right? This is both my joy and my work. I have to remind myself of that sometimes when I feel like I'm in lack, that like I don't own the property anymore, but I don't give a damn. I'm still able to enjoy and to do all of the things that I want and actually feel less pressure about the whole darn thing. I was talking to that about one of the ladies in the community a while ago. Like, I actually feel unburdened, quite free, because I still get to live my life. And all the things that were taken from me between like the death of my daughter and now, it felt like a huge problem at the time, but I realized at certain points that all of the things that I really, really wanted to do in my heart, the time was then opened up for me, and the freedom was finally given to me, where I had nobody was dictating what I could and couldn't do. So I went and I pursued the things that I wanted. They turned out to be not flashy things. They were books and study and sewing and learning to garden and getting closer to stuff like that. And, you know, the rest comes naturally. Sometimes it just is a matter of time. And knowing how to speak to the universe, not in greediness, but in simple acceptance of a reasonable amount. You know? All right, so let's finish out the book. And this stone, which I have set for a pillar, shall be God's house. And of all that thou shalt give me, I will surely give the tenth unto thee. Genesis 28:22. And all the tithe of the land, whether of the land, whether of the seed of the land, or of the fruit of the tree, is the Lord's. It is holy unto the Lord. And if a man will at all redeem aught of his tithes, he should add thereto the fifth part thereof. And concerning the tithe of the herd, or of the flock, even of whatsoever passeth under the rod, the tenth shall be holy unto the Lord. Leviticus 27:30-32. Thus Solomon finished the house of the Lord and the king's house, and all that came into Solomon's heart to make in the house of the Lord and in his own house, he prosperously effected. 2 Chronicles 7:11. The law of increase. This is really just kind of a summary. The importance of tithing. Any practice that endures for centuries must have more than casual importance in human affairs. The further fact that many of the world's greatest credit their success to the practice of tithing also impresses us with its importance. What is a tithe? Originally, a tithe was a percentage of flocks, herds, or produce. Incidentally, this percentage given to the Lord was the best of the lot or crop. After the advent of money as a medium of exchange, at least 1/10 of all money received by the individual was turned into religious channels. It should be remembered that a tithe is neither gift, reward, charity, or payment for services. It is 1/10 or more of your income left with the source of all things as belonging within and to that source. It is left that you may not sever your contact with the source, as did the prodigal son. The farmer follows the plan of tithing perfectly and scientifically as far as his crops are concerned. Approximately 1/10 of the best seed he raises is kept for replanting. This is returned to the soil to perpetuate the process of growth, that there may be something to perpetuate the law of nature. The seed sown is not a gift, nor is it a charity or compensation. It belongs to the soil as an inseparable part of the process of nature. All increase is contingent upon this procedure. Not only is the best seed saved and used for this purpose, but the ground is prepared and supported in the best possible manner. You see, the farmer protects, preserves, and supports the field from which he directly receives his service. What is the actual purpose and law of tithing? The answer is found in Malachi 3:10. Bring ye all the tithes into the storehouse, that there may be meat in mine house. And prove me now herewith, saith the Lord of hosts, if I will not open the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing, that there shall not be room enough to receive it. The purpose. It is evident from the above that the first motive the first motive of tithing is the support of that individual or organization engaged in spiritual activity, where the knowledge and power of God is promoted. It is definitely for the support of spiritual ministries that extend and expand the work of the Creator. The law. The law of tithing is the law of sowing and reaping. Where there is definite contact preserved between cause and effect, the effect is supported and perpetuated. If a break in the process occurs, the effect must diminish accordingly. When the prodigal son separated his inheritance from the father, it soon dissipated itself. The law is to perpetuate and amplify whatever it is allowed to act upon. Tithing preserves this contact. It keeps your affairs in contact with creative power. The fruits of the law are contingent upon observance of the law. To whom is the tithe paid? In Old Testament times, the tithe went to the support of the Levites, meaning those who adhere, as adherents of the spiritual law. They in turn passed on 1/10 of their supply to the support of the priests. In this way, the structure for perpetuating spiritual ideals was well supported. One would naturally tithe at that point where he directly contacts a spiritual work. This is not necessarily the largest spiritual organization, but that particular individual or organization or immediate source where you are receiving your direct spiritual help or inspiration. These are all stations in the great scheme of spiritual upbuilding in the race. To serve the least of these is to serve the whole. Only through these spiritual movements have the greatest ideals been preserved, and they are worthy of the greatest cooperation. Great spiritual organizations are builded up by great cooperative efforts. A spiritual ministry in your locality can be stronger than the support of its followers will permit. Both spiritual worker and student of spiritual things should realize the importance of strong, well-supported points of spiritual service in a community. But some say, should not spiritual work and workers demonstrate their own supply direct? The answer is yes, but God speaks and acts by means of man, you, as a channel. You look to the individual or organization as a channel through which you receive spiritual help. In turn, it is perfectly within the province of spiritual practice that you should be the channel through which God supplies the minister or the ministry. It is a poor rule that does not work both ways. To safeguard your own best interests, you should make your chosen channel of spiritual refreshment as strong as possible. You should strive in thought, word, and deed to perfect that channel through which you receive. Or you should strengthen the channel in which your community, for the community's sake, if you have no sense of need for yourself. At the same time, you also provide for those less fortunate than yourself. To make it possible for those around you to receive spiritual help, you help to lift the standard of your own community and therefore improve your own environment. This reacts to your greater blessing and advancement. A starved spiritual ministry cannot give to or your community the best spiritual support. See that there is meat in mine house, and the house will be in the best possible position to serve you or those about you when any need arises. How is tithing practiced, and what are the results? The practice. To tithe in the true sense, you first set aside 1/10 or more of your whole income. Gifts, charities, obligations, upkeep of relatives, etc., are a matter entirely outside the question of tithing, just as a farmer may give or sell his grain, but not the seed preserved for his planting of his own fields. The 1/10 set aside as a tithe is never considered your own. It is that portion of income that belongs to the law or source. The first act of the farmer is to select the best seed from the whole crop. The tithe is 1/10 of your entire income first set aside as a seed used to maintain contact between the law and your income. This tithe is turned back into the law as soon as directly as possible. But return your tithe to the storehouse joyously as you would plant a garden. Do not feel you are giving, but merely returning to God that which belongs to Him as the source of all that you are and have. Remember, it is for the purpose of keeping an unbroken and ever-enlarging contact with the law of life that the action of law may be perpetuated in your affairs and the world. The results. When you have tithed directly into the field from which you receive your immediate spiritual support, you have placed yourself in the most direct position with the law to be assured of the most direct, abundant, and personal blessings. Then the blessings that maketh rich and addeth no sorrow thereto are to be expected as your sure reward. Only through preserving your contact with the law of life are these blessings to be derived. 10, 20, 50, or even 100-fold increase is not too much to expect from prompt and complete conformity to the spirit of the law. We do know that through some disobedience to divine law we have received more trouble than we could contain. Why should not a conformity to the law bring a fulfillment of the promise that our blessings shall be more than we can contain? Prove me now herewith, saith the Lord. However, the greatest reward is an inner sense that we are in harmony with our own fundamental nature. Inner peace surpasses any outer attainment or material reward. The sense that we are right brings the greatest peace and satisfaction that life affords. Such inner states must have their outpicturing, for he that hath the Spirit hath the sign also. Should those engaged in spiritual ministry tithe? Spiritual teachers and organizations will also find the practice equally applicable. The Spirit must be the guide as to where the tithe is placed. The order of motives holds good here as elsewhere, however. The law operates definitely whether given to an individual engaged in spiritual ministry or when given to a large, well-organized ministry. Being guided of the Spirit seems the important point, but it is self-evident that a tithe is functioning in its intended sphere only when given to advance a strictly spiritual activity. Meditation. Of the increase which life gives to me, I always return 1/10 to my source. This 10th is in my hand only for the moment as its steward. Returning it immediately to its source, I keep an unbroken circuit of creative power flowing through me, my business, and my finances. The law of increase is inevitable, and because all things in my life are kept in the stream of life itself, I can logically expect a bountiful increase constantly. There is nothing inanimate, for one spirit pervades all things. Therefore, my business and finances are always kept vitally animate by this purposefully maintained contact through my tithe. The Spirit of God created all things. To support the activity of God as the nearest point where I receive my immediate help, I am promoting the activity of the whole. I thereby preserve the channel of my own good and prepare a fountain of divine blessing to those about me. Be thou not afraid, when one is made rich, when the glory of his house is increased. For when he dieth, he shall carry nothing away. His glory shall not descend after him. Psalms 49, 16 through 17. And that concludes Wells of Abundance by E.V. Ingraham. I thought that was a great book. I hope that it is helpful. That is, I might keep that recording
for myself to play once in a while as a daily reminder when I don't feel like looking down and holding a book. Because that does happen. As much as I want to read, there are limits. My neck can't look down, but I have all kinds of devices for reading books at different heights and stuff. So thank you all for joining me. King James, Sniper, Maddie B Fishing, Mojo Shop, and Daryl Calhoun. Anybody else watching in the future, lurking in the shadows? Drink from the well is limitless. And until later, best wishes, little fishes, and much love.